I like the girls in Ecuador. They are more gentle and trusting, more innocent, not like the Colombian girls, who don't trust strangers. This is a famous quote by Pedro Lopez, the monster of the Andes.
Um, Hello. Right now you are tuning in to the Cain Legacy podcast.
Brought to you by your host, Daniel and Andreas.
Yeah, and today we are going to talk a bit about, or not a bit about, extensively about Pedro Lopez, a notorious uh, Latin American serial killer who proclaimed that he himself had murdered girls in the hundreds.
Our main topic for today, Pedro Lopez was born in 1948. He today is approximately 74 years of age and is notoriously known, as mentioned before, as a serial murderer, rapist, and a necrophile.
So we're just going to start shortly with how he grew up, his upbringing, and maybe point out to how that could have affected his legacy that he sadly made after. He grew up in a poor Colombian family. He was born to by a prostitute, and his father died very young in a shootout at a supermarket.
This was 6 months before Pedro Lopez was born, and his parents were never together in any way. They had an affair. So his parents were never really together. He was the seventh child of a 13 children big family.
He started showing, well, acts of non-normality when he fondled his younger sister at 8, where he then was promptly thrown out of the house by his mother.
And I think that he had bad experiences from that, but not only that, but also the experiences of witnessing the prostitution that his mother went through, because, um, well, he would be able to just look through cracks on doors and stuff, most likely. He also once confessed that um, he was, he had seen his mother get hit by her clients, which probably also affected his psyche. We gotta remember he was younger than 8 years old at the time of these happenings, and 8 years old when he did the um, the act of fondling his sister.
He ran away at 8. He grew up in the city of Bogota in Colombia, where he would be abducted by a man who offered him a hot meal and a bed to sleep in. But it would turn out that that man would rape Pedro extensively and leave him to die.
In order to survive, he had to improvise. So what he did was join a children's street gang, where they would steal and hunt for meals. They would fight for places to sleep in, which in itself can be said as a problem in Latin America, where these children gangs, or just gangs in general, are popular and very they're a bit noisy, so to speak. They definitely bring a lot of problems to the authorities of the countries in Latin America.
His luck would turn in a sort of way when he would be would get into a orphanage where he would be collected, so to say, by an U.S. immigrant family at the age of 12, where that would presumably show him a bit better part of life. He would, though, run away at the age of 14. Uh, One source says that he was being molested by a teacher, and therefore that gave him reason to run away.
And more sources state that he ran away with the teacher. But if we are to believe the man himself, then it was the molesting story, which is sadly true. He ran away back home to Colombia. His mother obviously um, didn't let him in. I don't. We There is no information on whether he actually went to his mother, but I know for sure that they didn't have any contact at this point. So he sold stolen cars at the age of 18, um, which obviously made him some money, but of course was illegal. He was sentenced to 7 years in Colombia in prison, and in that prison he would get frequently gang raped.
And also in this prison where he would act out his first murder. After being gang raped by a group of 3 to 4 men, we're not exactly sure of the number, he would meticulously hunt even them down and killing them with a shiv. One source even says that he strangled the last one with his bare hands.
And if we are to believe that the fourth one was um, also a part of this, then he promptly got away with it, unfortunately. Or fortunately, however you look at it. Well, on to the first bit of discussion. Well, this was his upbringing. Um, does it really um, does it really surprise you that he ended up like he did?
I think that we ought to look at the traits that make a psychopath. These are among them. Usually, there's this act that a psychopath, or at least a murderer, has a sort of gene in them that's just being to be unlocked by certain upbringings, and he clearly had that. He was the mother in Latin America, and the time he grew up, that west part, the West, was still extensively wild. There were gangs, and it's still one of the least safe places in the world. So just imagine what it would be like in the 50s or 60s, how it would be to grow up in such a place.
True. The poverty certainly wasn't better than it is now. Um, because, as we know, these countries in Latin America have experienced exponential growth after the end of the Cold War. So, before that, when they were measly puppets used by the colonial powers, we can only imagine how badly it would affect the countries and the morale of the people once they left and were left with, well, death and all the awful stuff that the Europeans came with. So the 20th century was a very bad time for the countries who had to scrape together to survive. And that is also why these crimes of rape and violence were very common.
Pedro will be released after he added 2 years to his sentence after the killings. It was so short because it was seen as self-defense. He would be released in 1978. After that, it's presumed that his murders just picked up rapidly. He would, in that period, kill. He would claim that he would kill approximately 350 people, and these people would primarily be young girls of whom he would rape and later kill. Even it is said that he talked about, after he would have killed them, play tea parties with their corpses.
After the murders came to be known, he was arrested in Ecuador in 1980, which obviously led to him confessing about his crimes. In a 2 year period, he killed approximately 350 young girls between the ages of 8 and 12. For these crimes, he got released on the 31st of August of 1994. He was then arrested as an illegal immigrant, despite claiming that he has gotten Ecuadorian citizenship. and handed over to Colombian authorities. He would declare him insane and put him in a mental facility until 1998. He would then be declared sane in 1999, and a reported murder by Pedro Lopez happened in 2002. This is the recent murder case that we've known by him, and since then, in 2022, his whereabouts are unknown.